The Long Beach Grand Prix, one of the crowning jewels in American motorsport, second only on the IndyCar calendar to the Indianapolis 500 itself. Sometimes known as America's Monaco, this weekend we'll be celebrating the 47th running. An event started back in 1975 as a Formula 5000 race and followed shortly after with an 8-year run as a Formula 1 Grand Prix. IndyCar taking over Long Beach in 1984 could have been seen as a step backwards for the event, but it's proven anything but that. A shining event on the calendar each year and one that cannot be missed. And so, as the real-life IndyCar series prepares to do battle at this great circuit, I find myself, as so often is the case, doing my own rendition of the event or getting to know the circuit a bit. I find it helps enhance watching a race so much to have even driven a few laps virtually around a circuit. Although there's no telling how accurate the feeling of driving the car is, and especially like we're going to do today and drive something not entirely relevant, it still creates a better understanding as to where the braking zones are, where the tricky corners are, how to set up passes, and maybe where to back off. It does nothing but increase my enjoyment for watching the real race, the real drivers threading the needle lap after lap in conditions you could never replicate in your home. So the Long Beach circuit was introduced to Automobilista 2 as a part of their Racin USA DLC, released back in the summer of last year. And I've spent quite a lot of time racing around here in older Formula cars and sports cars, but now that Automobilista 2 features the 1995 Indy cars, this has become my go-to. In 1995, IndyCar would have raced sans fountain section around this track, but it still is a great combination and really takes me back to IndyCar 2. I think in 1995, Alonso Jr. won his 6th Long Beach Grand Prix. It's flown somewhat under the radar, but since I first took a look at the 1995 IndyCars for Automobilista 2, they've actually been enhanced and patched. Some of the things I brought up in the first video about there being a limited number of cars and not the right chassis engine combinations has all been fixed. There's now 28 cars to choose from and race against that fit much more closely what actually was involved in the 95 season. And already right on its heels, the community has done its work to put together a real-life skin and AI set for this pack. The author Enrique Freitas at Race Department notes that this is kind of a quick job putting together some skins and everything for it, but they really do look quite nice, and although they may be slightly inaccurate or low resolution in parts, it's so much appreciated to have something almost immediately to race against and improve the look and feeling of this set. All 28 of the cars have been dressed up in some of the most iconic liveries of all time. So lined up at Long Beach for 12 laps, starting from the rear, I've got all 28 1995 Indy cars. I'll be driving the iconic Walker Racing No. 5 Valvoline machine piloted by Robbie Gordon in 1995, and of course, the cover vehicle from IndyCar 2. Starting at the rear for some real elbows out racing to get pumped up for the Long Beach Grand Prix. So here we come, get the green flag on Shoreline Drive for our short Long Beach Grand Prix. We'll come storm around the outside. Everybody fanned out in front of us, expecting a few fireworks here down in turn 1. The yellow Menards car right against the inside wall. I think that would be Ari Leyendijk. And we'll come down probably to a near stop as we'll funnel into the first corner. Pick up a few positions on the inside. Now come towards the fountains. As the car in front of me does the same thing. Lock up the right front. All right, now turn it on up to turn 5. A very tricky corner at speed, but we'll just tiptoe around the outside here. Get the throttle down, and now a short shoot, short run down to the track's going to pick up some speed here. There's nowhere to go really. Up the inside, just try to balance the grip. Really easy to get the rear end of the car out from under you here. Quick flick now. And onto the back straightaway. I think I saw Hiro Matsuda behind me there, but no longer in sight. So we'll come down then towards the end of the lap. Still a lot of cars in front, side by side here. Work my way, muscle my way around the inside now, outside to inside, and into the hairpin. AI getting bottled up, but overall, relatively well behaved. There we go, back onto the front straightaway to end the first lap and pass a whole bunch of cars. But like with other good AI sets in Automobilista 2, the AI, the cars towards the rear of the pack are actually quite slow, and you'll see it even out here as we get further up the grid. Back down to second behind Eddie Cheever now in Foyt's car. They'll get a lot quicker up here, especially as the tires come up to temperature. Had some really good battles doing this. Seem to fall right around the 10th position, which is good enough for me. There we go, carry some speed. It's all about carrying the speed here. It's incredibly bumpy, if you couldn't tell. Much like real life. Oh, right on the inside, we might have made slight contact there with Cheever. Try to find some apex here. You can go much closer to that inside wall. There we go. Quite loose, getting on the straightaway, but able to pick up the power quicker than Cheever. Try to outbrake him, he'll come back to me. The AI are pretty aggressive, but they don't do what they used to do and run over you, which is nice. Run a bit wide though, come back into the hairpin. Should have the inside line behind Stefan Johansson. Always like that Bettenhausen car in front. I love all the paint schemes from this season, as I've talked about before as well. I think it's probably the amount of time I spent playing IndyCar 2 and just taking a look at them before mods and things. We'll throw it up the inside of Paul Tracy as well. He's going to come back on me. See him in the mirrors. Whoa, dance the car there. Now, one thing you'll notice, or at least the keen-eyed among you will definitely notice, are the helmets are not the proper livery, and it's something that can't be painted in Automobilista 2 and stops this from being just about perfect. In every other way, it's very nice, very good. But for somebody that really knows this time period or knows the drivers, and I see it with the Formula 1 sets as well that are available, the driver helmets, I just can't wait till they let us paint those as well, just to complete the whole thing. Ooh, cut the inside curb a little too much there. I get a penalty maybe. Following Teo Fabi now. So he'll be quite slow on the exit. See if I can accelerate away. A little bit of wheel spin. I do think this will try to come up the inside here, right against the inside wall. All right, fan out. Now try to outbrake the green car there. I think that would have been Buddy Lazier. In the Menards cars, John Menard's Buicks, they would have only been running at Indy, but they're so iconic as well. It's fun to have them here. Ugh. All right, just barely catching the rear end there. Skip over the bumps. I find the 95 cars to be a lot more skatey. They bounce around. They're not quite as heavy on the steering or stuck to the ground as the 98 or 2000 cars, which I guess makes sense. Downforce improved over time, but what it equals out to when you're driving them is I find them just a lot more dynamic, a lot more fun to slide around. They're not always planted, so you have to be ready to chase the wheel, and the rear end's going to step out on you. It just provides a much more fun driving experience, as I almost lose the rear end there as well. All right, enough dramatics on that lap. We're up to 17th position. 28 cars is a great number. I think the real IndyCar series is going to be just about around that. Won't quite have the jump on DeFerrin this time. He's chasing Danner, I believe. Just hear the tires locking up, hug the fountain there. The fountain section, like I said in the intro, not something that was run in 1995, but I really do prefer this version of the circuit. I think this is the best layout, maybe bar that Formula 1 layout from the 70s. But I do like this layout quite a lot. Automobilista 2 just has such a cinematic feel to it. I've said it before about how it feels like you're racing in a movie, and it really does. But it keeps getting better and better, whereas in the past I was willing maybe to look past some of the physics flaws because it was just so much fun to race. Now it's feeling quite good. I certainly would compare this this pretty highly against the coveted R-Factor mods for Kart Factor and things. Get up the inside of DeFerrin. Oh, he's gonna squeeze me right against the wall. Try not to hit Danner there. Side by side with DeFerrin into the Fallon. He gets the pass back on me. I have full damage on, so if you do hit the wall, you're likely to end the race, bend the suspension, break your wings off. It's not very forgiving. I found you can kind of hit things just a little bit, other cars side to side, but if you hit the wall with any kind of force, your race will be over immediately. It's of course something that's tunable. Oh, I'm gonna run a bit wide onto the back straightaway. Lazier behind, catching up. Down to second, so stalling out my forward progress around 17th, but still about half of the race to go. They'll be running, of course, 85 laps around this circuit in the real Grand Prix, which is another complaint, I guess, or just thing that I can't wait till it's corrected in Automobilista 2. I gotta run though on DeFerrin, maybe try the outside this time. He's going to let me slide around him, maybe done trying to battle side by side through this section. It's a smart one. All right, try to pick up the throttle and get away from him here. All right, able to do it. It's a great looking car, that Pennzoil. But yeah, running longer races in Automobilista 2 is something I want to do so badly, but the AI just don't do pit stops correctly yet. It's just going to come back on me here as we'll head onto the back straightaway. Have to hug that inside wall side by side here. There we go, pick up the throttle earlier, spin the tires. Just seem to pit at very random times. Oh, sliding the car there. The tires feel like I've overheated them probably. So we'll run a bit deep into the hairpin, try to turn that into straightaway speed, get a good launch. Come across the line, start lap number 8. It's going to quickly wind down. See if I can catch up to Danner in front of me. Not the car I thought I'd be racing. Once they can get the AI to do pit stops correctly or have some sort of pit strategy that doesn't put them at a disadvantage, that's going to be such a great enhancement as well to allow you to do races with pit stop strategy. Something in IndyCars that I'd like to do, but actually the sports cars that are included with Automobilista 2. Very much want to do some longer endurance-like races with those, but you just simply cannot right now. You have such an advantage as DeFerrin's all over me again. There's such an advantage with the pit stops that it ends up being quite trivial to beat them, even if you're not as fast on pace. Got a little bit of a break behind me, although he's going to close it up right here into the hairpin. Get a nice line through there, though. Just try not to spin the car out on throttle. I do think Long Beach here is one of the best tracks for these cars, but I do like Laguna Seca, Cleveland, Road America, all of the tracks they released for North America, as well as Watkins Glen, and then all the South American tracks that they have in Automobilista 2. There's a lot of good circuits, even though they don't have all of the real ones. And recently they did reiterate that oval racing is going to be coming, and although they haven't said that it's specifically for the Indy cars, I have to imagine it will be. No sign as to what tracks will be included there, but hopefully something good. DeFerrin once again, trying to get a nicer run on the back straightaway, just about the same speed as the cars in front, but having to defend quite a lot from DeFerrin. Sliding the car a bunch now. You can see it's not very gripped up. Grab first gear there through the corners, not the best place to do it. Run a bit deep through the hairpin. Right, pick up the accelerator, back on the front straightaway. The sensation of speed here is so good. Right in the slipstream. We're going to be just a little too far back, although he leaves the inside open. Want to sneak it in there, actually lock up the two front tires, play chicken with that wall that's so popular. Bit of a mistake there, and that's something else that they've actually introduced with this patch, but I don't believe is included in this set of cars yet. But they've added some parameters for AI to introduce errors, to give them some sort of error percentage, how often that driver specifically would make a forced error or an unforced error with the car, just to help add some life to them. Oh, just hit that cone on the inside. I think we'll be fine. Love to see those types of features. That really shows that Racin is very much looking at the AI as part of their product. It's not just an extra piece that's added in. It's really a focus for them. Gives me some faith they will fix some of these final issues, and we're really going to have an amazing game on our hands. All right, we'll come to the line. I got 2 laps to do this. I got to get around Danner at least in front of me. Pull him in a bit on the straightaway, but still going to be a little too far back. Just want to send it, but that wouldn't end very well. Part of the track is so narrow, but it's so fast through here. Just want to get the line right onto the straightaway. I had a little bit of oversteer, had to wait on the throttle. Chasing the front end as it just slides over the bumpy ground. It's the best impression of street course racing I've seen. I'm not sure if in any sim, but I can't remember anything that's been quite as convincing of how bumpy and brutal it is. Put it down to first there for a second. It's not the right gear. Keep it in second through this whole section. The parking lot towards the end of the lap, down to first, coming to the hairpin. Oh, I had closed in on him a lot, but I ran a bit wide. Try to pick up that throttle though. All right, there we go. Slightly closer this time, but I think I'm still going to be a little too far back. Maybe. Oh, jump on the brakes there. Right in his wheel tracks though. We'll try to hound him. Against the fountain, play chicken with all the walls. Just trying to pick up the throttle there, but you can see the car just wants to fight, get around, get out from under me. I'm gonna lose a little bit of ground through here. I think he's slightly quicker through this part of the circuit. Right out to the wall. To be quite close enough to make a lunge. Try to stick with him up to the hairpin, you never know. Chase the front of the car. Oh, get under him on the front straightaway. Drag race to the finish line. No, not quite close enough. Oh, just there at the line though. Good little race, good little race. 12 laps is not quite long enough in my opinion, but it's still a lot of fun. Definitely recommend doing this combination for yourself, and you can tell it's commentating, working your way around the track. It's unlike any experience I've had around racing street tracks in any of these sims. Definitely a combination I'd recommend. Well, it's not often I almost get out of breath trying to commentate one of these races, but the experience of driving these cars around this circuit with the bumps and the walls being so close and the car always trying to break away from you. Like I said during the video, I can't think of another sim where street courses have felt this visceral or this physical. You know, you hear in driver interviews how physical street tracks are, and muscling a car around them for hours on end is one of the toughest experiences in racing. And after doing Automobilista 2 around Long Beach, this is one of the only sims that I really feel like that. I don't know if it's the force feedback, something about the way the track and the bumps communicate itself to you just adds that extra bit of fear, I guess, or the general dodgy nature of the car bouncing all over the place. It's just an excellent experience if I can't express it in any other way. The force feedback itself helps give a really good impression of the lack of power steering on these cars, where at higher speeds it actually becomes harder to turn the wheel after a certain point, and at lower speeds, or when you're going around 20-30 miles an hour, it's actually quite easy to turn the steering wheel. It's really cool and something I definitely recommend trying, and especially if you tried Automobilista 2 at one point, maybe back when it was just released and haven't tried it since, I think it's worth another look. So like I said, 12 laps is not quite enough laps around Long Beach, but I think I'll do a few more of these before the real Grand Prix tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed this though, a quick look at Long Beach and the 95 kart cars with this beautiful skin set that's only going to get better as time goes by. So until next time, thank you for watching. This is GP Laps, and I'll see you all again later.